perfectly fine television play-by-play call, you should hear what the opposing booth sounded like, because there it was, I will bother Cardinals fans when I describe him as former Cub Jim Edmonds, but this was Bally Sports Midwest after Morel's second home run.
So the Cubs exacting some revenge, and they're going to have back-to-back homers again. Morel hits one deep into the seats. He's got a 2-homer game.
This kid's celebration is a joke. I don't mind saying it at all. I've never seen anything like it. I just don't get it. You're a 229 hitter in the big leagues, and you're running around like you're Barry Bonds.
First of all,
because if there was an era Jim Edmonds certainly didn't play in, couldn't have been during that time.
Now, first of all, the idea of 229 hitter, do you know what the league average is?
I'd say it's probably 225.
243 is league average right now. So, big deal. This whole, he's a 229 hitter. He's got 18 home runs. Now, I also will say, Jim Edmonds was a great baseball player.
Yeah. I know people here know him as the Cardinal because that's what he was for the majority of his career, but also for a significant amount of years, I knew him as a noted Ranger killer.
On the Angels?
Yes, very much so. When he stepped up to the plate, you were not looking forward to the result.
No, he was a legitimately great baseball player, and he was indeed a Cub and a good Cub in 08. However, Jim, I don't want to hear it from you. I don't want to hear it from the king of eyewash. I don't want to hear it from a guy who would go out of his way to make sure at the end of that catch, instead of flagging it down with his feet on the ground, that there was every opportunity to stretch out and dive, maybe slow up a little bit and then speed up a little bit. Come on now. Nobody liked to play look at me baseball more than Jim Edmonds. So please. And come on, man. Was he saying that also about PCA?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's what I'd like to know, because
that's
PCA's got
good question.
PCA. We've said this before when we created the persona of Pedro Cuervo Brazo Fuerte, Pete Crow Armstrong. That if it were Pedro Cuervo Brazo Fuerte, would we look at it differently? That was calling me out. I was called out for that, saying you're only saying that because he looks like he looks. And yet I'm wondering about was Jim Edmonds mad at another swaggy center fielder?
Well,
Edmonds was one of those.
Additionally, isn't there a whole bit going on with the Cubs right now that they're trying to bring back the dab?
Yes. The first guy I saw was Nico.
Yeah, and then Nico was mocking himself bringing back the dab. That's another thing I want to ask Ian Happ about is this dab business.
When we caught the dab last week, I actually first noticed Dansby do it, and it was the same game. It was before Nico did it, and then Nico did it.
Dansby, you need a dab. Break up the mojo a little bit. I like it. Have some fun out there.
Whatever works, man.
So wasn't that part of it was the dab during the... And that's an inside joke that is represented. It's just like anything else that hitters do if they want to do some sort of hand signal or something. That's been going on for a long time.
And the Cubs have had their own iteration of that. Even last season, everybody wanted to know. They were doing one that was, I don't know, turn up the dial, or I don't know what that was.
There's always something. There was squeezing lemons one year. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
But it's also funnier because they're making fun of themselves bringing back the dab, which is largely panned as not in style anymore. Like, that's funny. Like, it's a little irreverent, isn't it?
I agree.
Dan, what are your thoughts on dabbing?
Hey, man, if it means the Cubs are on base, I don't care what you do.
But here's my other...
I don't care if you pull your pants down. I'm just glad you got a hit.
Here's my other question about this. What is the real sin here?
Nothing.
Like, step 2 of this is what? You want him to go back to home plate and just put his head down and like trudge along the base pass? Like what's the punishment exactly?
Yeah, be
when
more
you
boring.
decide that you want to be baseball police, what's baseball jail? I need to know the second step of this. Do you then apologize with a big gesture? Because I have a feeling that would be dismissed. Oh, well, that's not really what I meant.
Well, you need to ask Baseball Police Commissioner Tony La Russa. He's in charge of all these things.
Who's the hierarchy here? Like, I need to know
is that really a question?
In which, officer line does this go? Like, is Jim Edmonds a sergeant? Is he a lieutenant? Like, how does this happen?
He's
here?
certainly bidding for a promotion in the Baseball Police rankings, obviously. Tony La Russa, while still extant, I believe, is the commissioner of the Baseball Police.
I thought he was like Supreme Court.
Oh, maybe he's like the Emperor Palpatine. I don't even know what kind of system the Baseball Police use.
I don't either, but I feel like Palpatine would be, especially with recent versions of him, I feel like that might be a very accurate comp.
Yeah, the 630 notes, too, that after he said that, he also went on and made fun of the fat dude in the stands who caught the 2 homers.
But that's okay.
He's taking up a lot of space out there.
Isn't it worse if you're a former player to call out a player who's currently on the field than it is to mock an innocent person in the stands?
And if Christopher Morel...
Who's paying to be there?
And Morel's too nice and fun to ever do something like this, but, like, if you wanted to roast Jim Edmonds for some stuff, he could. Right? Wasn't he the guy that was involved in the bizarre love triangle, to quote New Order?
I'm sorry, but athlete relationships are just not news to me.
Yeah,
like
news really public.
News implies being novel and noteworthy, so that's why I tend to stay away from it.
What, the untidiness?
Commonplace practices in an industry are not exactly breaking, like us using microphones per se. So I just I don't deal in such. But when it comes to Baseball Police, I just would like to know if there is a sentence, what is the appropriate sentence for you, self-appointed judge and jury?
You know what I used to ask that about too, that always bothered me, was this idea that after a bad game or a bad day or a bad loss, that someone's like, yeah, that guy was out at dinner that night. And that would be some sort of...
He's eating!
Right. He went out with his family and they had a steak.
Better not be vegan, though. That means that your career is down the tubes, right?
But I always wondered, like, what do you want that player to do? Should that player don a hair shirt and sit in penance and have a mortification of the flesh and tighten his Celice belt?
Yeah, again, what's the sentence?
And beat himself until his back bleeds and flagellate? I mean, what would make you happy?
Also, what was the score at the time of that home run?
He hit a home run. He's a very, very happy young guy. And everybody who knows Christopher Morel knows he's not posing. He's just happy.
But the dab is indeed a pose, but it's also out of style. So you're making fun of yourself, which is a joke. And that is self-aware and therefore should be accepted by Baseball Police judges and whatever triumvirate. Here's the other thing, though. What was the score of that? 7-3 at the time?
At that point, when he hit that home run, it was 4-2.
4-2. Okay.
Well, he's going to get a fastball in his ear. He's going to be looking at the sky. Come on, man.
But who typically complains about these things? Losers. You complain when you're losing.
630 Star Wars Episode X opening crawl. Jim Edmonds has lashed out at Christopher Morel and some fat guy in St. Louis. The resistance is in shambles.
But like, you're usually, see, the score I had is 7-3, but usually you're complaining when you're losing. Am I right? So losers complain about this. Like last year when it was, what's his name? The other Cardinals analyst who used to work with Ranji on the radio station in St. Louis. And he's like, have a feel for the game. Why are you complaining?
However, sometimes you hear it. And my guess is, and this is just listening and having seen the full body of work of Jim Edmonds, that even if he would do it, especially if Morel hit it to like cut a 5-1 deficit to a 5-2 deficit, I guarantee you, if Edmonds had it in his mind to say something, he'd be like, you're still losing. What are you doing? Why are you celebrating a home run? You check the scoreboard. He would use it that way as well.
Oh, that's right. Noted